Hi, and welcome to my art and fiction channel. I'm Adele Cosgrove-Bray, and today I'm going to be reading you an original, very short story written by myself. Let me put my cup of tea down and I'll begin. This story is called A Final Tryst. If the jogger noticed Paul as he pounded past, then no acknowledgement was given. The jogger paused by the bench, propping his foot on the lichen-coated wood to retie his shoelace, before continuing to slog a route through the park. A gaggle of chattering schoolgirls flowed from behind rhododendrons. 3 of them turned to watch the jogger, the shoulders of their black blazers bumping together. Perhaps they threw a cheeky insult at his back, or maybe they were admiring his small tight bum. It was hard to tell, and the carefree girls continued walking towards a stand of tall silver birch. Weak sunlight squinted through lumpy grey clouds, but even these were beautiful in their own way. There was a seagull up there, all by itself, pounding its wings against the wind. A spiral of leaves swirled as if a sprite was dancing along the damp gravel path. Then a young woman with a pushchair trudged into view. She kicked at the wheel brake before slumping onto the bench. She did not speak to her precious cargo. She pulled out a phone and began scrolling, sucking on her cigarette as if hungry for cancer. From behind the rhododendrons walked 2 middle-aged ladies. One carried shopping in a thin plastic bag. The other had a Yorkshire Terrier on a long lead. They sat on the bench and faced each other, barely glancing at the park. Paul heard them chatting about the comparative prices of eggs in various shops and awful work colleagues. The younger woman shoved her phone back into a pocket. She rose quickly, shot a glare towards the others as if their presence offended her. She marched away, thrusting the pram before her. Paul watched as the seated pair gleefully shared office gossip. They paid him no regard, and continued chatting until a man in a grubby anorak approached and asked for spare change. They both pleaded poverty and quickly walked away. The Chancellor slung back to a thick copse of trees. Paul sat down on the bench. This was a very ordinary park bench, but to Paul it was precious. He gazed appreciatively around this section of the park. The gravel path stretched around the perimeter, flanked by towering old trees and newly planted shrubs poorly protected from yobs by rudimentary fencing. The expanse of grass had been recently mown, leaving it bereft of daisies and buttercups, which were Paul's favourite part of any lawn. At his back, partially screened by a straggling hedge, was a nursing home and old houses long since converted into flats. An elderly woman on a mobility scooter trundled from behind the birch trees. She was smartly dressed. Her iron grey hair had been professionally set. She checked her watch out of habit as she parked beside the bench. She did not glance at Paul. She did not look back at the nursing home, which she knew only too well. Her face was flushed, as if she had been crying or was running a mild fever. She did not see the loving smile offered to her round-shouldered back. A crow was on the grass now. It tottered towards them like an aged bombardier, its legs stiff and awkward, its call raucous, its beak as ready as a bayonet. Paul watched and waited. He remembered when this woman had threaded daisies through her shining chestnut tresses, how they had strolled hand in hand down that verdant avenue of towering beech trees, and how he'd bound their wrists with a blue silk ribbon from her hair and promised to stay with her for all time. It had been too many years since she had spoken his name to him, rather than merely spoken about him to others. She saw Paul again in her mind's eye. She could see him so clearly today. More usually, she just glimpsed a swift impression of him in the corner of her eye when she was least expecting it. Everyone told her this was a figment of imagination, a vestige of grief, as if grief ever fades. She knew it did not. It lies dormant, then roars into raging life without warning. And right now she could smell his favourite hair oil and the tang of those slim Arabian cigarettes he'd always preferred. I promised I'd stay with you for all time, Paul said, his voice now untouched by any quaver of illness. I miss you, she said. I'm right here. Paul held out his hand, and Beryl felt again the warmth of his firm, dry palm. She smiled as his fingers curled around hers, so familiar and reassuring. She had struggled with mobility over the last year, but now they were standing side by side beside the park bench where they used to meet as teenage sweethearts. He slipped his arm around her waist just like he used to, and they strolled over the emerald green grass. How blue the sky had become, how perfectly warm the sun. Beryl cast a backwards glance towards the nursing home where she lived, but it was insignificant now. The glossy black crow took to its wings, and they followed it. Well, I hope you enjoyed that last little story. If you did, or even if you didn't, leave me a comment down below, and do remember to hit the subscribe button down in this corner here somewhere, because that really helps with the algorithms. I need all the help I can get because I've got such a tiny little channel. You know, all the help you can give to get people to actually discover it is fantastic, and I really appreciate it. And before I go, I've had a bunch of new subscribers this month. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I'll see you all again very soon with a new video. Bye for now.